How many of the knives sitting in your drawer right now did you make worse the last time you tried to clean one up? Not the last time you cut something, the last time you decided to fix one. I've watched men take a knife that needed nothing more than an hour of patience and turn it into scrap in 10 minutes. I've done it myself. And the worst part is they always feel proud when they're done because it's shiny now, and shiny feels like progress. My name is Walt Rennick. I'm 71 years old. I spent 34 years as a tool and die maker in a shop outside Dayton, Ohio, and I've had somewhere around 9,000 blades pass across my bench since I retired. I don't sell knives. People send me knives their fathers carried, and I send them back. Today I'm going to give you 8 methods for taking a rusted knife and bringing it back without destroying it. 8 things most people don't know, and I mean that plainly. The last one is the cheapest and the simplest on the list, and it has saved more blades than the other 7 combined. I'll get there. I promise you it's worth the wait. Here's the part that goes against everything you've been told. The rust is not your enemy. The sandpaper is. Rust you can manage. Rust you can even convert into something that protects the blade. But steel you grind away is gone, and no amount of wishing puts it back. A knife is not like a scratch on a car that you fill and repaint. Every pass of abrasive is permanent. You are spending a finite thing, and most people spend it like it's free. You've all seen the videos. Some of you have watched 100 of them. Silent clips, no voice, no explanation, where a filthy orange knife goes into a jar and comes out looking like a chrome bumper. Millions of views, and here's what those silent videos never tell you. A good number of those restorations destroyed the knife. They sanded the maker's stamp clean off the Tang. They ran a wire wheel over a thin edge and cooked the temper right out of it. They mirror polished a blade that left the factory with a satin finish. They swapped real bone handles for colored resin. It looks beautiful with the sound off, and the value is gone. I'm not attacking any one person. I'm attacking a method that teaches you to chase shine and ignore everything that matters. The camera loves the transformation. The camera does not know it just watched a $100 knife become a $12 one. For my first 11 years, I was that method. I kept a bench grinder and a drill with a wire cup brush, and I thought speed was skill. I soaked blades in vinegar overnight because somebody told me it worked. I used 80 grit paper, the coarse stuff that feels like a driveway under your thumb, on knives that deserve better. I oiled them with whatever was on the shelf in the garage, sometimes plain motor oil. I ruined more knives in those years than I like to count. I think about them more than the ones I saved. There was a carbon steel butcher knife my wife's father used for 40 years, and I took a wheel to it to be helpful, and I still can't look at it in the block without a small ache. An old cutler in Cincinnati told me something when I was maybe 30. He'd been grinding blades since before the war. He said, "You can always take more steel off tomorrow. You can never put it back." I've repeated that line for 40 years. And every method I'm about to give you comes out of it. He had hands like tree bark, and he could read a blade the way other men read a newspaper. Now, I want something from you before we start. If you have a knife you inherited and have been afraid to touch, tell me down in the comments what it is and what's stamped on the Tang. The exact words, I read those, and the stamp tells me more than a photograph would. Let's begin, and we'll go from the easiest and cheapest up to that last one. The first method is the one nobody bothers with because it costs almost nothing and takes no drama. Before you touch a single abrasive, you clean the grease and grime off with mineral spirits and a rag. That's it. Old knives carry decades of dried oil, pocket lint, and cutting board residue, and half of what looks like damage is just filth sitting on top of good steel. Mineral spirits, which is a mild petroleum solvent you can buy at any hardware store for a few dollars a quart, dissolves that layer without touching the metal underneath. Wear gloves, work near an open window. What happens is simple. The solvent breaks the bond between the oily grime and the steel, and it lifts away. I've had men send me knives calling them ruined, and after 20 minutes with a rag, they were 90% there. Work it into the joints of a folder with a cotton swab, because that's where the packed grime hides and where rust starts undercover. The Canadian Conservation Institute says the same thing in their notes on metal care. Start with the gentlest thing that works. The cost of skipping this step is that you grab sandpaper for a problem that a rag would have solved, and now you're removing steel you never needed to touch. A drawer full of knives, and the one you scarred was the one that only needed a wipe. The second method is learning to tell red rust from black patina, because they are not the same thing, and treating them the same is where most people go wrong. Red rust is hydrated iron oxide. It's porous, it's loose, and it is still eating the blade right now as it sits there. Black patina is magnetite. It's stable, it's tight, it bonds to the steel, and it actually protects what's underneath. Here's the thing that took me years to accept. The goal of a good restoration is usually to convert the red into black, not to grind everything down to bare shiny metal. When you sand a carbon blade to bright silver, you've stripped off the one layer that was keeping air off the steel. Run your thumbnail across the surface. Red rust powders and comes off orange on your nail. Black patina stays put. There's a gray-brown in between them, an active pitting rust that hides down in the low spots, and that one you do want gone, but you lift it with chemistry, not a wheel. Once you can tell these apart by feel, you stop attacking the thing that was protecting your knife. Half the blades I'm sent don't need rust removed at all. They need rust converted and left in peace. Let me stop here for a second. What I just walked you through, telling red from black, knowing when to convert and when to leave it, that's one page of Chapter 4. There are 11 more chapters. It's a book called The Restorer'S Bench, 158 pages, 12 chapters, and it's organized by the decision you're facing, not by some list of tools. It comes with the bench cards you can keep next to your vise, a safety card, and an index that lets you look a knife up by its symptom instead of guessing. The point of it is this: that knife in the drawer tonight, and you finally knowing what it is and where to stop. The link is in the description, and there's a QR code on the screen. This is the night you stop being afraid of that drawer. The third method is choosing your acid by what your steel actually is. This is where knowing your blade pays off. Carbon steels, and I mean 1095, 1084, 01, W2, 52100, and the chrome vanadium that Case used, they take a patina and they respond well to a mild acid. Citric acid is my choice. It's the sour powder from the canning aisle, about 90 cents a batch. You mix a warm solution, a couple of tablespoons to a quart of water, and what it does is dissolve the loose red oxide while leaving the sound metal largely alone if you don't leave it too long. Vinegar will do it too, 5% acetic acid, but here's the trap. Vinegar picks the rust off, and once the rust is gone, it keeps right on going into the healthy steel and pits it. That's why the overnight soak everybody recommends is bad advice. 20 minutes, check it, rinse it, neutralize it with a little baking soda and water so the acid stops working the second you want it to. Then dry it right now, not in 5 minutes, because a wet carbon blade will flash orange while you're looking at it. And if your knife is stainless, 440C, 420HC, VG10, or the True Sharp that Case switched to, you don't need any of this. Stainless doesn't rust the way carbon does, and dunking it in acid is solving a problem you don't have. The cost of getting this wrong is a field of pits where you had light surface rust. I've done it. I left a beautiful old carbon paring knife in vinegar while I ate lunch, came back, and the whole flat was stippled like a golf ball. That knife is still in my drawer as a reminder, and it cost me nothing to make and everything to learn from. The fourth method is the one that will save the value of the knife, and it's about the one place you must never touch. The Tang stamp. The Tang is the part of the blade that runs back into the handle, and on the exposed part of it or on the ricasso just ahead of it lives the maker's mark, the pattern number, and on a lot of knives a date code. That stamp is the identity of the knife. A Case 20 from before 1965, back when they were still stamping carbon steel instead of the stainless that came later, that stamp is most of what the knife is worth. The dots under the Tang stamp on a case tell you the year, and men pay real money for a specific year. Sand it, buff it, or wire wheel it, and you have erased the birth certificate. It is irreversible. So when you work near the Tang, you work by hand gently, and you leave the stamped area alone entirely. If there's rust sitting right in the letters, you lift it with oil and a toothpick or a piece of hardwood sharpened to a point, never with abrasive. Wood is softer than the steel, so it pushes rust out of the stamp without touching the edges of the letters. The National Knife Collectors Association will tell you the same thing. A blade with an honest, readable stamp and some honest wear is worth more than the same knife polished to a mirror with the mark gone. I've turned down work because the man wanted me to make an old Sheffield look new, and making it look new meant killing the one thing worth keeping. The fifth method is abrasion done right, which means done slowly and by hand. If you must sand, and sometimes you go by progression and you never skip too far. You might start at 400 grit, which feels like a matchbook striker under your finger, and only if the pitting is deep. More often, you start at 800 and move to 1200, which feels like a business card under your thumb. You back the paper with a flat block, a piece of hardwood, or a hard rubber eraser so you don't dish out the surface and round over the flats. You keep it wet with a little oil or water so the grit cuts instead of tears, and so the swarf floats away instead of scratching. You work in one direction along the length of the blade, not in circles, because a scratch that runs with the grind lines disappears and a circle catches the light forever, and you never ever put a powered wheel on a thin edge. Here is the mechanism, and it's the most important sentence in this whole video. Heat kills the temper. Tempering is the low-temperature bake done after hardening that trades away a little hardness for the toughness that keeps an edge from chipping. If you see the steel turn straw-colored while you're grinding, you've hit around 400 degrees and you've already lost hardness. If it turns blue, you're near 600 degrees and that edge is dead. It will never hold again. A wire cup brush on a drill will do that to a fine edge in seconds because the thin steel at the edge has no mass to carry the heat away. That's why I hand sand. A drop of water should skate across the steel, not boil. If the blade is too hot to hold against your wrist, you've already gone too far, and you went too far a while ago. I'll be straight with you. What fits in 20 minutes here is a sample. It's the trailer, not the movie. The book runs the full length of every one of these decisions. 12 chapters, each one built around a choice you actually have to make at the bench. The type is set large because I'm 71 and I know who I'm writing for. Every setup in it works on a bench you can put together for under $40, no machinery, no grinder, nothing that spins. And here's the part I'm proudest of. Every technique carries a line I call "Check Me," with a published, dated source behind it. National Park Service, the Canadian Conservation Institute, the ASM Handbook. You don't have to take my word. You can go read the same thing I read. It comes with 60 days to sit with it, and if it's not for you, that's the end of it. No argument. If you've been watching this thinking about a knife that outlived the man who carried it, that is exactly who I wrote it for. Links down below the video, QRs on your screen if you'd rather point your phone at it. That's all I'll say about it. The sixth method is the handle, and the rule is short. Bone, stag, and antler do not get wet and do not get hot. They crack. I learned that the slow way with a stag-handled hunter I dunked in warm water like it was a coffee cup. The handle split along the grain a week later and there was no fixing it. You clean natural handle material with mineral oil on a soft cloth, worked in with your fingers, and left overnight, and that's all. It feeds the material a little and brings the color back without swelling it. Wood handles the same way, a little mineral oil or a paste wax, never a soak. Now, there's a special case, and it's the reason for a lot of rust nobody can explain. Celluloid handles. If your knife is from before 1950 and the handle looks like tortoiseshell or pearl or candy stripe, but it's plastic, that's celluloid, and celluloid degrades. As it breaks down, it gives off nitrous vapors, and those vapors rust the very blade they're attached to, and every other knife stored in the same drawer. If you've got one knife in a collection going orange for no reason, look for the celluloid handle sitting next to it. It'll often smell faintly sharp, like camphor or an old chemistry set. Case Collectors Club members have known this for years. Pull that knife out and store it alone, away from the rest, or it'll take the whole drawer down with it. The seventh method is for the collection piece, the one you can't afford to take any metal off of at all. Electrolysis. Instead of scraping rust off, electrolysis chemically reduces it, meaning it converts the oxide back toward iron without removing the base metal underneath. You use a plastic tub, a battery charger, a sacrificial anode, and a weak solution of washing soda, which is sodium carbonate, about a tablespoon to a gallon. Low amperage, the trickle setting, not the boost. You clip the negative lead to the knife and the positive to the anode, and you keep the two from ever touching. And here is the safety line you do not cross. Your anode, the sacrificial piece of metal, must be plain mild steel, a scrap of rebar, or an old flat bar. Never stainless. Stainless in an electrolysis bath releases hexavalent chromium into the solution, and that is toxic, the kind of thing you do not want near your skin or your lungs, and you do not pour it down a drain. Work outdoors or with real ventilation. Done right, electrolysis is the gentlest method there is for a valuable blade because it takes off zero good metal. It only loosens the oxide so it wipes away after. This is also where I'll say plainly, if a knife has a Haman, that faint wavy line from a differential temper done with clay and quenched in water, electrolysis and careful polishing reveal it. They don't create it. A blade without one won't grow one no matter what you do, no matter what a silent video seems to show you. And now the 8th one, the cheapest and simplest on the whole list, the one I promised. It's the last step, and almost nobody does it. Protection. You take the clean, converted sound blade and you put a barrier between the steel and the air, a film of oil. Mineral oil for a kitchen knife because it's food safe and it won't turn rancid the way a cooking oil will. A light machine oil or a paste wax for anything else, and wax lasts longest on a blade that just sits in a drawer. It costs a few cents and takes 30 seconds. Here's why it matters more than everything above it. Every method I gave you removes rust that already happened. This one stops the next round of rust from ever starting. Bare carbon steel in a humid drawer will flash orange again in a month, and you'll be right back at the acid, taking off a little more metal each time, and each time is a little less knife. Do that 10 springs in a row, and you've thinned the blade with nothing but neglect. The National Park Service Conserve O-Gram series lists a stable oil film as the baseline for storing iron and steel. A wipe of oil after every use is the difference between restoring a knife once and restoring it every spring for the rest of your life. That's the whole secret. The cheapest step is the one that makes all the others hold. The men who send me the same knife twice are the ones who skipped it. So that's the 8. If there's a method I left off, a trick your grandfather used that I didn't mention, put it in the comments. I read them and I steal the good ones. Next time I'm going to take one knife all the way through, start to finish, a rusted case trapper found in a barn, and show you every one of these decisions on a single blade in real time. Remember the silent video with the sound off, the orange knife going in, and the chrome bumper coming out? Remember the $150 restoration kit that holds $10 of material? That's shine. This was steel. The rust was never the thing to fear. The eraser in your hand always was. Mineral spirits, a few dollars. Reading red from black, free. Citric acid, 90 cents. Protecting the Tang stamp, free and worth hundreds. Hand sanding, $1 in paper. Oiling the handle, pennies. Electrolysis, a battery charger you already own. And the oil film at the end, a few cents. Under $15, all of it. And every knife you don't grind away is a knife that outlives you the way it outlived the last man who carried it. Chase the shine and you'll erase the very thing that made the knife worth saving.